What's up? What's up? What's up? Hey, everybody. How y'all doing this evening? What's up to our YouTube viewers? What's up to our Facebook viewers? Hey, everybody. Listen, I am Demita McGee if we've never met before. And I wanted to hop on here this evening. Happy Sunday. I know some of y'all are watching the football games. You got a little bit of a break coming up before the game begins. The next game begins for the night. But I wanted to hop in here really quick today. I know you saw that title. And the title of this is, what do these numbers have in common? And so we're going to break that down in a little bit. Okay, we're going to get to that in a little bit. But really quick, if you are watching, especially on YouTube, I want you to go ahead and subscribe. I want you to go ahead and like it. Let them know that we're doing a good job. The information is valuable. If you're watching this on Facebook, make sure, same concept, like it. Can't subscribe to it, but like it for me. So let's dig into what this conversation is all about today. So I'm reading a lot of really good information, y'all. And one of the things that popped up that I wanted to share was, over the last almost 2 years, my husband and I are learning a lot about um, money, how money works. And sorry, I just killed a bug on my desk. We're learning a lot about money and how it works, right? And now I've gotten this really huge passion to help people understand, um, because our story, I'm very honest, I'm very open, I'm very transparent, and I like to make sure that I share our story as it really was and as it really is. And one of the biggest challenges that I found in our house was that, although we were able to crack the six-figure mark together as a team, one of the challenges that we had was, you couldn't tell by our bank account. Y'all, we had no money in our account, none. We were seriously struggling. We were trying to figure out what is happening with the money that we are making. What are we doing? And so one day, I really sat down and noticed that the problem was us. It really wasn't the money, because the money can only do what we tell it to do. And so if that's you, I get it. If you're like, listen, I'm making this much money, things are going well, but for some reason, I'm still struggling. Why am I living paycheck to paycheck when I know for a fact the money that I have should be able to cover my expenses, should be able to cover my life, and I should have extra? And that was our story. I knew we should have extra, but we found ourselves not even having enough, and it just didn't make sense. And so, fast forward, I was literally praying for something. Praying, God, show us how money works. Just show me something, because I know it's not you, it's not the money. I know it's us. And the reason I knew it was us, it hit home one day, because if you guys have watched me for any length of time, one of the things that you may know is that I would do a lot of affirmations. Well, one of the affirmations I would do, and most of them were biblically based affirmations. And so one of the ones I would say is, I'm the lender and not the borrower. Well, one morning in 2018, okay, that's when this revelation hit me. In 2018, I was saying these affirmations on video, right? Just like this, doing a motivational and inspirational video. And I was saying these affirmations, and it hit me in that moment. If we are the head and not the tail, if we are the lender and not the borrower, then why don't we have any money to lend? And why do we owe so many companies, so many people? What is the problem? And I remember leaving the office that day, home office, and going into the bedroom and saying to Wayne, the kids were at school when this happened. Okay. So this is 2018. This is pre-pandemic and everything. And I remember going to Wayne and saying, babe, I just heard myself say something that resonated with me for the first time. If we are the lender or not the borrower, how come we don't have any money? Like, what is really going on? You guys, I have been saying that scripture for months, but that particular day, it resonated in my heart, and God made me hear it, and gave me clarity on it that day. That was when I prayed, God, we got to do something. I need you to help us and explain to me what we need to do. So, real talk, y'all. What I do, y'all know your church girl runs straight to scripture. So I start looking and researching, and I open up scripture where it tells me, it talks about money, right? I'm going from verse to verse to verse to verse. And when I tell you I didn't understand anything in there, I didn't understand not one single thing because nothing said US dollar, nothing said savings account, nothing said checking account, nothing said credit card, nothing said car loan, nothing said mortgage, nothing said anything that I was accustomed to hearing. It was all terminology that I didn't understand. That's what it was. All terminology that I didn't understand. So I thought, okay, I got to find another way to be able to understand this. That means that I need to start doing some digging, going to Amazon, going to Google, finding a book that can interpret this scripture for me because I don't understand. But I did remember one of the pastors at my church saying that money was one of the most talked about subjects in the Bible. And I remember saying, babe, if that is true, and I don't question him, I believe him. And if that's true, then how come the only thing we know is to give our tithes and give 10% and then give offerings on top of that? That's like two really tiny pieces of everything that's supposed to be in there. So as I go on this hunt and this search for information, I start finding some books. Some of the first books I found, they weren't good books, or they weren't necessarily what I was looking for. I was looking for books that could help me understand scriptural context of how money works. So these books weren't what I was looking for. So I kept digging, kept digging, kept digging. And I ran across a book called Business Secrets from the Bible, written by Rabbi Daniel Lapin. Y'all, that book, that book, that book. So I ended up doing a book club on that book. And I've read that book since that time twice. It illuminated so much stuff about money that I honestly had no clue. That was the start. All right. Then the next thing, and that was at the very beginning of 2019. Then the next thing I did was I grabbed like a Dave Ramsey book, right? Then I grabbed something else. Then I grabbed something else. Then I started finding stuff because now I can actually find the stuff that I'm looking for because the algorithms, Google's in place, Amazon knows what I'm looking for. So now they start suggesting things. Then I ended up getting involved in this wealth community, and that's where our knowledge started to take off. You guys, in the last 2 years, I have learned more, like the last year and a half, I've learned more about money than I have ever known in my entire life, right? And so today, what I wanted to do was just share like a little bit with you because I am committed, seriously committed to helping people master this thing. Like, seriously, master this thing. Stephanie said, hey, Stephanie, I didn't even know you were on it. You said, I can never find physical copies of Dave Ramsey's books, only audibles. Really? Okay, so I'm going to end up maybe dropping a link to one of the books that I purchased a couple of years ago because you should be able to find hard copies. If you cannot get them on Amazon, Stephanie, I don't know where you live, but if you can't get them on Amazon, you should be able to find some hard copies at places like Barnes and Nobles, stuff like that. So the first book, y'all, that took me 20 years back, true story, was this book. A lot of us are super familiar with this book right here, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Okay. A lot of us are very familiar with this. But see, I read this book for the first time, North Carolina. Okay. So Stephanie, you're in North Carolina. Absolutely. I will send you a link of the book that I purchased a couple years ago. I know it's still in my Amazon history, and that should be able to at least help you get going. Okay. So what happened with me was 20 years ago in my 20s, y'all, I read this book. I remember reading this book in my 20s, but it did just like this. Shoot, it went way over my head. I mean, completely over my head. And so 20 years later, I picked the book up again. Over the course of the last year and a half, I pick it up again. And right off the bat, something stood out to me that I never noticed before. It was the subtitle. The subtitle of the book, you guys see that? It says, What the Rich Teach Their Kids About Money That the Poor and the Middle Class Do Not. That immediately spoke to me, and I didn't even notice that subtitle 20 years ago. I didn't even notice it. Okay. So 20 years later, I realized I was not born in a rich family. My family would clearly be defined as middle class, right? And a lot of us have come from either poor or middle class families. And so that meant that rich people were learning something and teaching their children something different than what was being taught in our home. And see, a lot of us grew up thinking that, oh, they just have, I can't say a lot of us. Let me just talk about my house. I grew up thinking that they were just in privileged situations. And because they were in privileged situations, that we could not catch up to those situations. When I reread this book, it occurred to me something super powerful. And that powerful thing was this, that some of the answers are in these books. And all we got to do is read them and actually execute what they said. So that was the first thing. That was the first thing. And so one of the things that he talks about in this book that he breaks down even further in this book right here. Now, this is the one. You guys, Robert Kiyosaki wrote this book. This is more recent. When did he write this book? 2019? 2019. All right. It is called Fake. Okay, hold on. You see that? Fake money, fake teachers, fake assets. How lies are making the poor and middle class poorer. When I tell you, once again, Robert Kiyosaki, when I tell you this book will illuminate some things for you, oh my God. So, what I wanted to do today was talk about this, the fact that these numbers that I popped in the title of this video, what do these numbers have in common? 40%, 60%, 20%, and 0%. What do those numbers have in common? You guys, one of the things that Robert Kiyosaki breaks down in this book, okay, I don't want to share this picture yet, but I'm going to have to share this picture, but I know what's going to happen. You guys are going to start reading the page. Hold on. Let me put it up here anyway. Okay, y'all. Let me find. There it is. All right. I literally took this page and took a picture of it, and it's from this book, Fake. All right. So what this picture says is that there's something called the cash flow quadrant. The first place I heard about that, the very first place I heard about it was in Robert Kiyosaki's book. Okay. The first one, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's the first place I heard about it, that there's a cash flow quadrant. And basically, what this cash flow quadrant means is this: it means that there are 4 significant ways that people earn income, right? So, E stands for an employee. So, if we work for someone, we're an employee. S stands for self employed. So, think of self employed like a business coach like myself. It could be someone who's an attorney. Maybe it's a doctor who has their own office. Maybe it's a dentist or an orthodontist and they have their own practice. Maybe it's a psychologist who has their own practice. But it's someone who is self-employed and has their own um office or something like that. Okay, that's what self-employed means. So their income comes from what they do. Okay. Now, B and I, those are the other sides of the cash flow quadrant. B stands for business. And I often hear people not say this part correctly. When he talks about business, he's talking about businesses that have 500 employees or more. So he's not just talking about the business owner that may have the small business owner that may have 10 employees. He's not talking about that person. He's talking about the business owner who has 500 employees or more. That's significant. And then there's the investor. The investor, when he talks about that person, he's talking about a professional investor, you guys, not just someone who invests casually. So that means that the majority of how they make their money is through investing. The majority of their time is through investing. And so it's really important to know the differences, because people will classify themselves as such when they're not really in those categories. Okay. And so what is interesting is when you first see these percentages, before you read the title, before you read the information, you might think, okay, wait, those don't add up to 100%. Originally, you might think something like, oh, these are the percentages of the population that fall in these quadrants. No, you guys, this is crazy. These are the percentage, these numbers represent the percentages of taxes that you pay per quadrant. That's what these numbers represent. Now, let me just be really open here. There was a time when I didn't want to talk about stuff like taxes. Like, why would I want to talk about that? And this is what I have found, you guys. Us not wanting to learn this kind of stuff is what's keeping us in the poor and middle class. That's exactly what's happening. That is how the middle class is getting poorer and the poor are getting poorer as well. But the wealthy are getting wealthier. This is why, because we won't take the time in a lot of cases to understand this information. And this is the interesting thing. It's not as confusing as we think. Okay. We just got to learn how to learn it. In the beginning, it seems, I remember when I would say, I don't understand money like that. Well, of course I didn't understand it. I didn't try. I didn't apply myself to try to understand it. Now you will never hear me say that. It's just not going to happen. So look at this. The employee pays 40% of their income in taxes. Now, when you look at the self-employed, this number shocked the heck out of me. 60% of their income in taxes. That's insane. I had no idea that that number was so high. It almost makes becoming your own self-employed person unattractive, right? Like I just go back and work as an employee. But if you look, it says those who work for money pay the highest percentage in taxes. Those who invest workers' money make the most money and pay the lowest percentages in taxes. Exactly. Jackie is like, wow. I was floored, right? Floored. Now, let's look at this. The business owner who has 500 or more employees pays 20% in taxes. You want to know why they pay 20% in taxes? They pay 20% in taxes because there are all types of like incentives for business owners who have businesses with 500 plus employees. States want those businesses to be in their state because it produces jobs, right? The government wants those businesses. And so they give them incentives to create businesses and to grow because guess what? It helps the country. And so they get breaks, a lot of incentives, and that pisses the average person off, but it is a fact. All right. And then the investor, that was the part right there. Y'all, 0% in taxes, zero. That is huge. 0%. Right. So he said the worst financial advice ever. This is why the advice to go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, buy a house, get out of debt, and invest well diversified portfolios of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, which are electronically traded. I forgot the F right now, could be the primary reason for the lines on the chart below, which the chart shows the rich getting way richer, the more middle class getting poorer, and the poor staying about the same. Okay. Now, I know one of the things that a lot of people look at is when it says get out of debt. I know you look at that like, wait a minute, we're supposed to get out of debt. Well, this is where debt comes in. Being able to use debt and leveraging it in business. That's where debt really is helpful. Okay. But understanding how to use debt effectively. But that's not the topic of today. Now, why do I bring all this up? Y'all, this is so powerful. This is like huge, huge, huge. So the first thing we got to know is there's a different tax code when you're on a different side of the cash flow quadrant. Now, I'm not going out here and telling you, you need to stop being an employee and you need to stop being self-employed and you need to hop into the business side and the investor side of the cash flow quadrant for the tax breaks. No, that's not what I'm telling you. To make a decision exclusively because of taxes is crazy. There are other things to factor in and to consider. The purpose of today's conversation is all about understanding how money works. Because the reality is we got questions and a lot of us don't understand why we're in the position that we're in. But the reality is, y'all, it was designed that way. It was designed that way. And so we were trained and programmed to go to school, get good grades, and get a good job, not understanding that when we share that same information to our children, that we are telling them, listen, what I want you to do is I want you to go to school, I want you to get good grades, I want you to get a job because I want you to pay half of the money that you make to the government. We don't know that that's what we're saying, but that's what we're saying. So now when my daughter or my son says, Mom, I want to do this or I want to do that. And I'm like, that's great. Do it to learn the skill set and then figure out how you can create the company so you can actually do that. But you have a company that does that. Because I know that when they build businesses that are 500 plus employees, I know the tax benefits and breaks they're going to get and the incentives that they're going to get. And the more, what's the right word? The more fiscally responsible and financially free their lives will be. And then we also talk about the investor piece. So I'm about to tell you guys, I'm about to share something with you guys that I know the average person is going to get so pissed off about. Like, I realize this now. But let me tell you, understanding and getting the right education can truly make a significant difference in your life. And that's what tonight is about. Tonight is about getting the right education, or at least to start asking better questions and not getting frustrated and thinking this is just how life is. No, it really isn't. You got to start digging and looking and finding the answers, to start asking different questions, finding the answers to those questions, and then asking some more questions. Okay. So listen to this. In this same book, what he does is he references this story that talks about Jared Kushner. Okay. Jared Kushner, y'all, is Jared Kushner. Jackie said knowledge is power. And I'll take that just one step further. Jackie, if you apply that knowledge, oh my God, it is even more powerful. I love that. So Jared Kushner, we may remember him as Donald Trump's son-in-law. Okay. And so Before I get into this story about him, which I'm about to, I'm going to read this one little sentence from the book. It says, without much financial education, millions of people, and you guys, I used to be one of those people, millions of people, especially academic elites, like my poor dad say, the rich are crooks, right? And I come from an environment where that is really what we believe, like that they are truly getting the upper hand on us and not telling us what to do. And even if they told us that, well, they would never tell us. We'd never be able to catch up, right? But one, is not true. And two, let's dig into this. So this New York Times article says this. It says Kushner's low tax bill, because they're going to talk about his taxes. Y'all, this, I was literally running around my house this week because this information floored me to the point that I looked at my husband and I was like, babe, we've been doing this backwards for 20 plus years and had no clue. Okay, so the article, Kushner's low tax bill are the result of a common tax minimizing maneuver that year after year generated millions of dollars in losses for Mr. Kushner, according to the documents. But the losses were only on paper. Mr. Kushner and his company did not appear to actually lose any money. The losses were driven by depreciation. Now, it's important to understand that he is a real estate investor and he's a professional investor. So he falls in the I quadrant. All right. A professional investor, I quadrant. This is why Robert Kiyosaki, when he says people teach you to get out of debt, this is what they don't understand is that you are not taxed on loans. Right. And so you have to use that loan as income to actually help you with further properties when it comes to real estate investments. Y'all, this stuff is so good. I'm telling you, I was so hyped this week. Now, are you guys ready for the climax of the story? Y'all ready? It says that in 2015, for example, Mr. Kushner took home $1.7 million in salary and investment gains. Remember that number, 1.7 million, right? But those earnings were swamped by an $8.3 million loss, largely because of significant depreciation that Mr. Kushner and his company took on that real estate, according to the document. Now, let's think about this for a moment. Let's think about this. When I tell the average person that, do you know how pissed that makes them? That they took home $1.7 million, but they reported $8.3 million in losses on their taxes. And so that meant that they didn't owe any taxes. But he took home 1.7 million. Now, while the average person is upset, guess what I'm thinking? Guess what my husband is thinking? How do we do that? How do we transition our life so that we are full-time investors? Like, how do we do that? Because that's part of what we want to do anyway. How do we transition our life so that not only do we have passive income coming in, so that not only do we have residual income coming in, but we have investment income coming in. Exactly, Jackie. Of course. Why not? Work the system to your advantage. And what a lot of people do is they get upset, not understanding that they have they have access to the same system, but it's going to take some work for you to be able to leverage it. Right? You got to find a way to accumulate the capital to be able to leverage it. And this is powerful. This is such powerful information. So I ran around my house. And the reason I ran about my house is because all of this happened on paper. All of it happened on paper. But he took 1.7 million home. But he leveraged a legal tax, what do we call it? A legal tax advantage. Now, somebody would call it a loophole, but we all know a loophole has a negative connotation. My point is, how do you use this information to your advantage? Y'all, that was powerful. So, what I want you to understand is this, right? Is that we are in the information age, y'all. Information age. Think about, where do you fall? Like, where do you fall in this? I told my husband, we have some specific plans. We had outlined some things. And as we learn more, guess what? We adjust our plans, because the more educated and wise we become, we can actually make the necessary adjustments to make the plans even better. You start with a plan, and then as you keep learning, you make the adjustments where necessary, right? So the plan was this. When we got to a certain level of revenue, not income, not from his job, but revenue, right, from our businesses, what we were going to do, this is so powerful, y'all. Like, this is why information is so key. What we were going to do was he was going to keep working, and he was going to keep working, because obviously we want to make sure we wanted to make sure we were 100% free and clear of debt. We wanted to make sure we accumulated um enough income, or enough, not income, but enough of a cushion savings fund, like a year worth of savings, all of this stuff. But guess what? uh-uh the reality is this, you guys, when we get to a certain point in revenue, if my husband keeps working, that's costing us more money than it's making us. Because the reality is he's getting taxed at 40% versus us being able to drop and completely change those tax percentages. That's powerful. That's why we need wisdom, and that's why we need a community. And I'm really working on getting a certified tax accountant who is incredible. I'm working on getting her schedule, and I'm hoping that I can in the next couple of weeks. I want to do an interview with her. You guys will love the information. She's been doing this for years, right? And she is so good at what she does. Okay. Now, we're in the information age. This is what I want you to really understand. So we know the industrial age passed. We are in the information age right now. You guys, there is an abundance of information on the internet and books online. If you could see just the number of books I have next to me, for the last quarter of the year, I'm reading 8 books, right? For the last quarter, 2 are done, and I got 6 more to go. All right. Because we're in the information age. What you have to do is understand that your wealth is tied up in there. It's in there. And so what you're going to have to do is become good and efficient at processing all the information. Because see, if the information is out there, but you don't understand how to process it, how to maneuver in it, how to get it, how to break it down, see what's most important, then you're going to miss it. Okay. And all this information is there. All the resources is there. That's why people say that they can come to America, one of the richest, most abundant countries, even with the struggles that we have, and they can kill it in the country. But then we're here and we struggle because the information is available, and we can't continue to blame other people for holding us back. Guess what's holding us back? Lack of information. And you cannot, absolutely cannot depend upon journalists to give you the information you need in order to become financially free and have true financial peace, right? So, what is my suggestion? My suggestion to you is to build a team that you can trust. You need to build a wealth team, all right? Why do I say build a wealth team? Because, see, what a lot of us don't understand, self made millionaires are not really self made, they have a team that helps them in various ways. You don't get to see the team always. I always like to use Oprah as an example. You think Oprah is where she is by herself? No. Oprah has a team around her that helps her execute and be even more efficient and as fabulous as she can be, so she can focus on the specific zone of genius that she needs to focus on. But her support team ensures that she can do that, right? You need to build a wealth team. First things first, you need an investment team. You need a team, someone on your team that you can trust, that can help you understand more about investments. The first thing you need to do is start reading some information about it. Just start Googling some things. A really good resource to start with, investopedia.com. That's a great place to actually start. Let me write that in the chat real quick. That's a great place to start. Investopedia.com. Start there. Okay. Start there. Great place to start. But you need to start understanding this investment quadrant. How can you use it to your advantage, even if you are not a professional investor? Okay. Even if it is not the majority of what you do, how can you start adding an element of that into your life so you can minimize your tax burden and expenses, right? You got to find a good tax accountant. And I know a lot of people think, oh, I could just do my taxes on one of these electronic services. I was that person. I'm going to save money. I'm going to just do my tax. No, you are hurting yourself. You don't understand tax law in your state. You don't understand a lot of the details in your state. I'm telling y'all, if I can get the amazing Pam Brown on here, she is a phenomenal certified tax accountant. I'm going to work on getting her on here as an interview so you can hear from her. She is phenomenal. That's number two. Number three, y'all got to find a good mentor. You guys, I have some incredible mentors. I remember I was watching, what do you call it? I was watching ESPN one day, and this was like 2 years ago. And one of the analysts was actually mocking a player. And he was mocking him because the player was talking about something his mentor said. And so the analyst was like, "You're a grown man. What you need a mentor for anyway?" And I immediately knew, oh, you just showed me your maturity level because you obviously need a mentor. I don't care where you are in your life, you need a mentor. You need a coach. You need somebody who can see your blind spots. And when it comes to wealth, if your money is funny, who said it the other day? They were like, "No, my money." Oh, it was Shamika. She said, "No, my money was downright hilarious." If that's you, guess what? You need a mentor in the area of wealth. It doesn't get better until you get better and make a decision that you're going to learn how money works and how to do what your money does. Money is a good servant, but a horrible master. Facts. Good servant, horrible master. And if you are not controlling your money is controlling you. And then you need to find some type of way to learn, whether it's an educational platform, whatever the case may be, whatever that is. I am actually a part of an educational platform, and that's how I've learned so much about this skill set. So, with the mentors and the coaches that I've gained through my educational platform, that has walked me through learning where to invest, how to invest, what to do, giving me answers on how to research, how to learn, how to use my money as a seed and literally make it grow more money for me. Those are things that I'm learning, y'all. It's such a big deal. I've learned how to actually come out of the traditional banking system and be able to use cryptocurrency as a banking system for myself. This is powerful stuff, right? Powerful stuff. My mentors and coaches literally pour into me. How do you think I've even learned about half of the information that I've been reading? Half of the books that I've got. This book right here came from a suggestion from my mentor like 2 years ago. 2 years ago, before I was a part of the wealth community that I'm a part of now, I saw him reading it online. And I asked him before he really knew who I was. I asked him, "What book is that?" Because he put like a page and circled something and put it on Instagram. And I was like, "What book are you reading?" And he told me, and I bought it before I was even a part of the wealth community. You need people who can coach and mentor you, who can at least guide you in the right direction, let you know what you should be reading, what you need to pick up. And then guess what? The wiser you become, which pray for wisdom. Solomon asked God for wisdom, and guess what? God gave it to him. So pray for wisdom. And God said, "Listen, it's more, Solomon said it's more precious than rubies." When God asked him, "What is it that you want?" You know what he said? "How do I lead a great people like yours?" And he said, "Because you have asked me for this and you didn't ask me for riches, I will give you the wisdom that you desire, but I'm also going to make you the wealthiest man." So he asked him for wisdom and God gave it to him. So daily I ask God to continue to just replenish the wisdom that I have and to give me even more. And you guys, what happens is as you have mentors who pour into you, you start to acquire that wisdom that you're looking for. Experience is an amazing teacher, and your actual wealth team is an amazing teacher as well. And so you start to be able to identify even better sources. So today I just wanted to hop on here really quick and just want to tell y'all, listen, you got to get this education, right? Because it's keeping you broke. It's designed that way, but you don't have to stay that way. The same information that I have access to, you have access to. The same information that other people have access to, you have access to. I read a book that explains to me how the Rothschilds have done what they've done. I read a book that explained to me how the Rockefellers did what they did. It also explained to me how the Vanderbilts lost their wealth. I've read books for that. One of my mentors makes a stupid amount of money, but that's why she's my mentor. I paid my way into her coaching program because I wanted to get even closer to her. Like I did that on purpose. If I got to pay to get closer to you so I can get this wisdom, that's what I'm going to do because it ain't free, but it's worth every single penny because it literally all grows exponentially. So prayerfully, that was helpful for y'all this evening. Thank you so much, Jackie. You stuck it out with me. I appreciate you so much. Thank you guys so very much for hanging out. I hope that was helpful. I love y'all. Have an amazing rest of your Sunday. And I'll see y'all next time. Good night, everybody.